You stole my father, and you destroyed our family. Gwen's voice shattered the courtroom like a clap of thunder. Even the judge stopped in mid-sentence. Robyn's attorney stared blankly. Kody Brown, 2 rows back in a gray suit that failed to conceal his nervous tic, appeared to have been slapped in the face by reality. This was not another hearing on property. This was the day the dam of emotion burst. Gwen Brown, Christine and Kody's daughter, had endured hours of lawyerly gobbledygook. But nobody thought she'd say a word. Not today, not in this fashion. She rose to her feet slowly. Fists were clenched. Voice trembling, not from fear, but from fury. She gazed straight at Robyn Brown. You posed as our mother. You spoke of coming in peace, but you only went about breaking every little thing we had. And suddenly, it all came crashing down. I used to wait by the window for Dad to visit. I'd count the hours, Gwen said, turning toward the judge now, her voice beginning to steady. But he'd always cancel. Last minute, sometimes he didn't even call. She swallowed hard, and every time it was the same excuse. Something came up at Robyn's. Standing behind her, Christine, her mother, sat stiff on the bench in the courtroom, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She didn't utter a word, yet her eyes were brimming with unshed tears, a tumultuous storm of pride, heartache, and years of silent pain. Gwen went on. I was 13, the first time I knew that he wasn't going to come because he didn't want to. Not because he was working, not because he was busy, but because we weren't Robyn's children. Several people in the gallery shifted uncomfortably. Even Janelle, who sat a few rows back with Savannah and Hunter, looked down, jaw clenched. This is not about hurt feelings, Gwen declared. This is about emotional abandonment. It's about being replaced. She gazed directly at Robyn, seated next to her lawyer in a pale blue blouse, holding a tissue to her lips as she always did on television. The act was fully engaged. The quivering lower lip, the sniffles, the fluttering glances at the judge. Gwen wasn't having it. You told us you loved all of us, she told him, voice rising. You looked on camera and said we were one big happy family. But the reality is, you ensured it was your kids who benefited. Robyn finally rolled in her chair. Her lawyer whispered something, but she waved him away. I apologize, Robyn whispered, standing. But I'm not going to sit here and have my name run through the ground. The courtroom fell silent once more. You don't know what it was like, she went on, shaking. When I came into the family, I was always judged, always blamed. I tried to bring everyone together. I wanted harmony. Gwen glared at her, jaw clenched. But your mothers, they never accepted me. I ended up being the fall guy for all of the family's problems to begin with, Robyn exclaimed, looking directly at the judge, her voice cracking. I didn't steal your father. He came to me because he felt rejected. A quick breath came from behind Gwen. Christine. Gwen slowly stepped forward. Think you were rejected? We were kids, Robyn, she said, icily. We didn't reject you. You stepped away. You upgraded houses. You got full-time time with him. And we waited, days, weeks, just to hear a voicemail. She glanced over at Kody, who had yet to speak. You stood idly by while he skipped birthdays, graduations. You stayed quiet, because you enjoyed it that way. Robyn's tears streamed freely now. But Gwen's flame only increased. You received the man, the house, the show, the sympathy, and then you pretended to be the one who was hurting. While my mother had to tell us why Dad missed our Christmas dinner for the 3rd year running, the judge held up a hand. Let's stay civil, please, he said. But Gwen wasn't yelling. She was commanding the room. Calm, clear, devastating. And for the first time in a long time, Robyn had no words. Even Kody, who had always jumped to Robyn's defense, looked frozen. His face pale, his fingers digging into his knees, as if trying to hold on to something that had already slipped away. The room was still, uncomfortably still. Robyn had at last gone silent. Her meticulously crafted act had broken under the pressure of Gwen's honesty. But Gwen was far from done, not even close. She dug into her coat pocket and produced a folded sheet of paper, wrinkled, yellowing at the edges, as if it had been read too frequently, and clutched too tightly. Her hands shook a little, not from fear, but from the gravity of what she was going to do. I didn't intend to bring this. Gwen spoke softly, her voice firm even in the midst of the tension-filled air. But someone needs to tell the whole truth, even if it hurts. She unfolded the letter and held it up, not as a display, but as a source of strength. This is a letter from Aurora, Robyn's very own daughter. She wrote this 2 years ago. She gave me permission to read it today, because even she couldn't carry the silence anymore. Gasps swept the courtroom. Robyn's eyes went wide. No, don't, she whispered. But it was too late. Gwen began to read. Dear Robyn, I know you've always thought you were doing your best, but from here, from where your children are, things appear very different. You claimed to desire unity, but you constructed a wall around us. You claimed we were equal, but you ensured your children were treated like royalty, as the others pleaded for leftovers of attention from Dad. I saw it all. I saw Dad become a person we did not know, a person who only smiled when he was around you. I saw Gwen cry when he skipped her graduation. I saw Truly ask Christine why Dad no longer called anymore. I even began to wonder if he loved us at all, or loved you. If you really loved this family, you'd stop playing games. You'd own up to what all of us already know. You didn't marry Dad. You split him. Aurora. The courtroom was utterly silent. You could hear the air conditioner whir in the ceiling. Robyn's face crumpled. She shook her head, mouthing no no repeatedly, as her hands gripped the bench in front of her. But the damage was already done. Christine stood there with her mouth open. She had no idea Gwen possessed that letter. Over in the living room, Janelle covered her mouth, tears filling her eyes. And Kody? Kody sat there stunned. For the first time in perhaps a decade, he was not defensive. He was not yelling. He was simply quiet. Gwen unfolded the letter, her voice barely audible. Even your own daughter pierced the illusion, Robyn. You made us characters in your story. She turned to the judge once more, her voice now slower, more measured, no longer angry, but coldly, brutally clear. Your Honor, we're not talking about financial domination or settlements legal anymore. We're talking about a pattern, a years-long manipulation that broke trust, tore families apart, and forced us, the kids, into a war we never wanted to fight. She breathed deeply. Robyn made us characters in her narrative. The bad guys, the envious children, the outsiders. All the while she was the misunderstood saint. She gazed at Kody. And you stood by. Kody appeared as though he wished to dissolve into the bench. His eyes scoured the room, but there was no place to hide from what had been read. Robyn controlled the last decision in every family choice. Where we lived, when we traveled, what we spoke on television. My mother wasn't even informed when Kody moved in permanently with Robyn. We just happened to discover. One day he was there. The next, nowhere. I'm not a background extra in your show. Gwen's voice started rising again, but this time not in anger, in strength. I spent years second-guessing myself. Why I wasn't good enough to be noticed. Why he didn't call. Why I had to plead for moments. It wasn't until I left and began therapy that I caught on. It wasn't me, it was you two. She gestured toward Robyn, and then Kody. You two constructed a story where we were bitter, emotional, challenging, and your children, angels, victims, worthy of all your time and love. Gwen edged forward to the judge's bench. I'm not a background actor in your production anymore. I'm not here to be cut from the scene, or branded as dramatic. I'm here to tell the truth, regardless of how repulsive it is. The judge seemed visibly shaken, his pen no longer scratching across his pad, but simply lying in the palm of his hand. The courtroom responds. McKelty, Isabel and Peden had just entered the room at that moment. They had not intended to come, too many painful memories. But word had spread, and they wanted to be present for their sister. They slipped into the back row, nodding softly at Gwen. Savannah Brown wiped a tear from her cheek. Logan, stoic as ever, sat motionless, his arms folded tightly. Christine leaned forward, whispering, "You're doing amazing," under her breath. But it was the sight of Aurora herself, standing just outside the gallery doors, that caused Robyn to truly break. Their eyes met. Aurora didn't smile, didn't wave. She simply nodded at Gwen. It was all the confirmation anyone needed. Gwen's final words. I'm not asking this court to punish Robyn. I'm not even asking it to punish Kody, Gwen said, turning one final time to face the entire courtroom. I'm asking for one thing, for this truth to be seen, for the record to show what really happened. That our family didn't fall apart because of logistics or legalities. It collapsed because love was made dependent. Because favoritism killed fairness. Because lying was easier than telling the truth. She folded the letter with care and set it on the evidence table. That's it. She sat down. No one stirred, not even the judge. And for once Robyn Brown, the woman who'd gotten to write the script for so long, had no script, no defense, and no spotlight to hide behind. The judge requested a brief recess, but no one stood up. The courtroom had become a site of reckoning, not only of legal issue, but of unspoken years of betrayal. Gwen sat, her hands shaking still, her breathing eased, but her gaze stayed fixed. Not on Robyn, not on Kody, but between them. Between them lay all the moments never had, the words never said, the hugs never shared. It was the space where a father once was, and gradually disappeared. Eventually the silence was broken. Robyn wept into her hands. Not her soft camera-ready tears. These were broken guttural sobs. The letter had destroyed her well-constructed story. Kody went to comfort her, but Aurora moved forward from the rear of the room. No, she murmured. The group turned. Aurora's voice was shaking, but she spoke. You knew what you were doing. You kept him around. You told us it was just how polygamy works. But it wasn't. You didn't just love him. You forced him to choose, and he did. Robyn's face blanched. Aurora turned to Gwen. You said what we were all too afraid to say. Kody stood at last, raking his thinning hair back. It wasn't like that. You don't know the pressure I was under. I was trying to please everybody. Christine stood now, slowly, firmly. And in doing that, you made everyone unhappy. Kody, she stated. You didn't call truly anymore. You faulted me for not being supportive of Robyn. But all I ever asked was to be fair. You gave her a complete marriage and crumbs to the rest of us. Janelle agreed, standing with her. We pleaded for fairness. We pleaded for time. But Robyn was always first. Kody resembled a trapped man. But the court was not going to make it easy for him. Gwen rose again, the final insult waiting. I'm not angry you loved her, Gwen said, her eyes direct at her father. I'm angry you stopped loving us. Silence washed over the room once more. The burden of those words lingered, dense and unshakable. Closing the book, the judge finally addressed them, voice low but firm. This court has heard its fair share of sorrowful tales, but seldom have we seen a family confront its truth so squarely. He paused, and then continued. This began as a money case, but what's come out here today weighs far more heavily than any courtroom decision. He nodded gravely. Let the record show the testimony, and the truth it speaks. The gavel fell once, a soundless thunder. As Gwen left the courtroom, things had shifted. Her hands were no longer shaking. Her shoulders weren't sagging. She was no longer the forgotten daughter. She was now the voice for all of the kids who'd been left behind, cut out, disregarded. Reporters waited outside, but Gwen didn't slow down to speak. She didn't need to. Her words had already reverberated in every corner of the courtroom, and every heart watching.